All right, we are on air. Happy Thursday, March 31st, everybody. It's the last day of March, which is pretty exciting. Means we're coming up on Backdrop 1.4 in a month and a half. All right, a couple of quick announcements as usual. If you would like to make a donation to Backdrop CMS, we have really adorable t-shirts and hoodies. We will send us thank you gifts, t-shirts for $25 and hoodies for $50. You can make donations for either of those amounts or any other amount you would like to on the contribute page at backdropcms.org. If you are already a Backdrop contributor and contribute code, we can give you a free PHP Storm license. PHP Storm has given us a bunch to hand out. So if you want to give PHP Storm a try, you can send an email to info@backdropcms.org and we can send you a license key, or at least a way to get your own license key. All right, updates from the PMC. We currently, PMC members, have someone in the issue queue we need to vote on this week. So if you guys could go and make votes. I noticed, Wes, you voted this morning. Thank you very much. I'll send an email to everyone later today, too, to make sure that the GitHub noise is not too much that we've missed the need to vote. But there is a potential new PMC member, hopefully, next week. It's exciting. And then hopefully after this edition we can kind of change gears a little bit and start to look at adding core committers, but there are a couple of other applications in the PMC queue that we can continue to debate as well, but less urgently now that we have a nice group of people who can help us choose core committers. So that'll be exciting. Neat. Let's talk about community growth.
Yeah, okay. So lots of activity this week, as usual. So we have 236 total projects for Backdrop CMS, modules, themes, and layouts that are available under the GitHub Backdrop Contrib group. Two new projects since last meeting, Custom Pub, which is custom publishing options for allowing access to those checkboxes at the bottom of node forms, for example, and CK Editor add-on, which is kind of like a unbridled version of CK Editor, if you will, which I'm kind of, but hey, everybody, choices for everybody. Okay, and let's see. Oh, and this is really exciting. Herb Duel did some work, and actually Jeff as well, did some work on CiviCRM this week. We ported two more of the submodules in CiviCRM, or I should say Herb did, and we merged in that into the Civi integration, and we also removed the rules integration, which wasn't working at all. So until that actually gets ported, it was better to have it removed rather than broken. So that's great. And we had some activity, people trying that out and installing it and using it. And for the most part, it seems to be working, right? Right? At least those were the only reports we got. Where, here, let's port some more modules, which seems to imply that things are going pretty well over there. So that's great. Let's see, we have 158 total projects on backdropcms.org that have been listed with official releases. One new project has been published to backdropcms.org since last week, and 217 total releases of all of those projects, including two new releases since last meeting. We're still at 52 total contrib authors. If you're interested in porting a module to Backdrop, well, go ahead and get porting. But if you'd like to publish that project onto GitHub in the official Backdrop Contrib group, then you can do so by applying to join the group at github.com/backdrop-ops/contrib, and that's where we handle the issue queue for reviewing new modules that are going to be added to the repository and then granting access to new authors. So if you're interested in joining, please do so at that GitHub issue queue, and we would love to have your projects listed in the official Backdrop Contrib repository. There are 133 total users who have created accounts on backdropcms.org. 15 new users have created accounts since last meeting, which is great. We still don't have a whole lot of things you can do on backdropcms.org, but we're slowly rolling out more functionality there,
But you
allowing
know
other.
what happened since last week that we have all these new signups?
Did we send out a mail?
Well, we did that. Wait, I don't know. I think that might have been 2 weeks ago. But we also added a link on the website that says login.
Wow. Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, imagine that. So all of our 120 some people that we had up until this point were just manually typing in /user, huh? Wow. Well, great idea. It's a start. Okay, that's all we've got for community growth. We'll roll right into infrastructure tasks, items around Backdrop that aren't the software itself, mostly GitHub tools and work on backdropcms.org. Usage statistics. Oh man, usage statistics kind of working, yeah, but kind of not working. So we've got a lot of usage statistics calculated all the way from gosh, I don't know, sometime this past summer all the way up until 2 weeks ago. But our number crunching script still seems to have some kinks in it. So it's been crunching numbers, but apparently we have to run it manually in order to get it to go, which is a little bit silly. Obviously, it's not far from working entirely, but it's just not quite right yet. So we're still working out the kinks in that, but we're getting close. Once the usage statistics are calculating correctly, we have a couple of follow-up issues in the backdropcms.org issue queue, basically expanding the functionality of usage statistics, making it so that we can pull in not just what modules people have installed, but what features they're using within those modules, potentially, so that we can start generating some useful information about what features people use in Backdrop and what features they don't. And we'd also like to add charts to the usage statistics pages. There's an issue 98 in the backdropcms.org issue queue. And I don't think that needs to be complicated. That can just be in the theme or custom module or something for backdropcms.org itself. So I don't think that's a big task. Okay, Drush for Backdrop. Drush from Backdrop. Jeff, do you want to give us the update on Drush?
Sure. So as always, just remind you to go to the Drush issue queue and state what you want, and you can get to those priorities. Reminder, use 8.x branch as the master branch is now Drush 9. And Nate did a nice fix that gave us at least a 2 for maybe 3 issues solved with namespace and issue, fix number 14. So if you're writing for Drush, follow the new convention here, backdrop _ command _ whatever the command hook that you're trying to write is. So thanks, Nate, for that. And then Jack reviewed and tested by the community, even though I'm bad at letters. See if I can get it right. RTBC, so we got Drush status merged, so now we can check status of websites with Drush. Oh, and Nate's allows it to work with Drupal 7 without breaking it, which is pretty important. Thanks for that. And will Pantheon update to use backdrop strush commands? It seems like they're perfectly willing to do that, and Greg Wynn Anderson's helping with that. But we have not picked up that issue for a few weeks, but I'm sure we can get back into that soon. That's Drush.
Awesome, awesome, yay! Yeah, that's really exciting. Now that Drush is finally working and it doesn't break Drupal 7 at the same time, like, yay! So last week Drush broke Drupal 7 when we had the backdrop extension. This week it works, yay! So we now have one. You can use Drush 8 and the backdrop extension, and you can use Drush now consistently across Drupal 7, Drupal 8, and Backdrop with one version. Very exciting. And I think that really yeah, we had just some terrible name spacing problem. It was kind of ridiculous that our commands, the function name somehow was accidentally a hook, and so when you were in Drupal 7 and you tried to run a drush command, it would accidentally fire a backdrop hook or a backdrop function. It was like a classic Drupal namespacing blunder, like an accidental hook invocation. But now that's been solved, and so we're in a much better state. Let's see, GitHub automation. We have a whole tag under the backdropcms.org issue queue for all things related to GitHub automation. I don't think there's been anything new this week, but it's worth mentioning if you didn't watch last week's phone call that we have a really exciting feature that is out in the wild now that is the live sandboxes. So every single pull request that you make automatically will get a sandbox spun up so that you can test that pull request on a live website, which is really cool, and I'm really excited about the lowered barrier there for helping new users test functionality without needing to know how to do hardly anything. No Git checkouts, no merging, no patches, no nothing. They can just try out the functionality right there from the pull request, which is really great. So if there's more things you would like to help us on, yeah, take a look at that tag in the backdropcms.org issue queue. And we've still got a lot of other things that we're pushing forward on to help tightly integrate backdropcms.org and GitHub and to smooth over some more of our development processes. It's also great. We have a new, one of the new contrib modules that was published a couple weeks ago is the GitHub API module that Gore wrote. And we've, that basically is like a central functionality for setting up an application, having Backdrop CMS act as an application for other GitHub integrations. And we previously had a project module kind of doing the cheating way of integrating with GitHub that it just used a private access token, which is basically like a stored password. And with the new GitHub API module, project module now uses it to set up a proper application where you grant the application access and then it can do things on behalf of your account. So that's great that we have that module available now, and project modules depending upon it, and the new sandboxes are depending upon it. And it paves the way in the future for making it so that our single sign-on solution potentially could depend on it in the future as well. So that's an issue that we've got in the next category, which is improvements to backdropcms.org, which I usually let Jen do. So go ahead.
All right, so what we've been working on most recently is getting ready to build a showcase for websites that are built with Backdrop. Last week, we actually were able to get out a blog post thanks to a bunch of you that had emailed in sites that you were working on. And we've got a couple more, actually, since we made the blog post. I was like, email in and let us know. And a couple people have emailed other sites I've been working on. So I think we should kind of do this routinely until we get our showcase up, is where we can just kind of put a couple of sites in the blog every now and then and keep people excited about new stuff coming out on Backdrop. But the showcase section, hopefully we can also get done soon. We evaluated a bunch of other websites out there that had showcases. Drupal actually has 2 of them, and there was one that was WordPress, and we looked at a couple of others as well and tried to figure out what kinds of content we wanted to put into the showcase. And now that we know what we want to show off, we also need to figure out how to display it visually on the page, and so that's turned over to design. And Darius, though usually our lead designer, has been pretty busy lately, and so if we have anyone who wants to take a stab at working on design for a showcase section of our site, that's definitely something that we need, and I think it's ready for that now. So definitely let us know if that's something you want to work on, and we can figure out what next steps are for that. We also want to be able to put a service provider or contractor listing as part of backdropcms.org. So if you are a company that provides Backdrop services or a person who wants to be hired to work on Backdrop, we can get those listings up. And so what I've done since last week is I've added a checkbox on user profile pages so that you can list yourself as being for hire, which is something I saw on GitHub, I think, that I copied. So all we need to do is set up a view with people who want to be listed as for hire, and we can pull that information in and put it up. And then we're going to set up a content type for a company or organization that mimics the way Drupal.org does it, so that companies can list themselves as hosting providers or server, developers or designers or information architects or whatever it is they want to be. And then hopefully we'll get some people to start adding those as service providers that'll appear on our service provider listing page. And then when we get the reference field in core, then we can start having references across companies. These are the showcases that they have, or showcases, these are the people that were involved in making them, and kind of cross-reference everything and get those super rich relational bits of data too. But for now, we'll just create the content buckets people can enter them into. We do also want to do single sign-on with GitHub, as Nate mentioned earlier. That's something that would allow people who already have an existing GitHub account to click a button to be able to log into backdropcms.org. So they wouldn't need to spend time creating an account in order to do that. I think that's going to be more important going forward as we start to kind of grow our community beyond Drupal, and people are used to having special accounts in special places. But we need a volunteer to actually handle creating that single sign-on solution. So if anybody's really interested in writing code to log in with your GitHub account on backdropcms.org, that's definitely up for grabs. So I think that's important, but we don't have anyone working on it right now. And then longer term, we're also going to look at some of the other things that were super successful on Drupal.org and mimic them on backdropcms.org. And one thing that I really liked was the jobs section. Of course, it would be good if we had jobs and a need for job listings before that went up. But it is kind of on our long-term radar of being like, wow, look how great that worked for Drupal. We should consider doing that as well. So there's a bunch of other stuff that we have already built on backdropcms.org that needs improvements. The Find Modules page, the Find Themes page, and the Find Layouts page in particular. We have designs for all of them. We have designs for modules and themes. We've only implemented modules, and that current design is across all 3 of those Find pages. We have designs for themes. If somebody wants to work on building out that, I think that would be probably our next high priority item. And then when it comes to layouts, we need to kind of rethink that space and try and figure out what the use cases are, what the user stories are for people trying to find layouts, what do they need to see, and then come up with a design there. We left that off initially because we didn't really know what people were going to be doing with layouts. And maybe now that we have a little more insight, we can design that a little better. So we need some work done there. And then we also have follow-up issues for the Find Modules page. We haven't completely implemented the designs because there were some development tasks blocking it. We've also had some feedback on what's there, and we need to do a little kind of a improvement on that. We've got a set of follow-up issues that need to be resolved around getting information people need in ways that is useful to them onto those pages. So we've got a set of those. And we've also added the blog section recently, the events section. Those could use a design review. So if we have someone that has that eye for design to just kind of look at it and say, this particular element isn't in line with the aesthetic of the rest of the backdrop site, we can clean that and fix that up too. So,
hey, Jen?
Yes?
Can I ask a question about Find Modules, Themes, and Layouts?
Sure.
So with the new GitHub API module, does that get numbers about how many people downloaded and things like that from GitHub?
I think that would be part of the project GitHub module, the one that implements project module with GitHub. And I don't think we're pulling downloads. We need to pull downloads. We also need to pull like the GitHub page for each project so that we can build links to like the wiki and the issue queue for the module page. And even though we might be able to construct those URLs out of like the project name that we already have, that's just not done yet. We just don't have a way to get that information out. So we either need to do some kind of display on like the node or some kind of, I don't know how, we definitely need like a field in the database for downloads. But I don't know whether it should be a field or whether it should be part of Project GitHub that just pulls in the data. But we don't have all the information we need. We have a place to put it. We haven't really thought about how to get it there.
Yeah, we'd probably need to be more than a field, because if you wanted to do like downloads per week, that sort of thing, then you would need to stored in a, there would have to be a lot of entries. Yeah, I'm not actually sure that we could do downloads per week now that I think about it. Like GitHub has the total number of downloads for sure, and we can retrieve that information from GitHub. And the way that that actually works is they only track downloads of releases. So you get information about the release via the API, and it tells you how many downloads there have been total. And I suppose if we got really smart and we executed it on a regular basis, we could calculate downloads over time. You know, like if we did it on a weekly basis, we could say this many downloads this week by comparing the numbers against each other. So it's all options, yeah.
Okay.
So we know we can do it, we just aren't doing it because we need to think about how. But yeah, it would be great to get the download numbers. It would also be great to get the links to the GitHub project page and the GitHub wiki and all that stuff too, issue queue. Yeah, event listings, we also have a way that anybody who has a backdropcms.org account can add an event. So if you're an event organizer and you want Backdrop people to know about it, you can put it up there. If you're a speaker, you're giving a talk at an event and you want people to know about it, you can add that as well. And hopefully that will prevent the need for the Google Calendar. We're also going to try and add iCal links to each one of those events so that anyone can add an individual event to their calendar without having to add an entire calendar to their calendar to get all the events that maybe might not be relevant. So we've got some good follow-up issues there for blogs, news, events. So speaking of news, last week we did post the Showcase blog, and in theory, tomorrow they will be writing a blog post about benchmarking Backdrop on PHP 7. I have a feeling that won't really happen, so if anybody has another blog post, you have an idea, you want to get up, we would love to have blog posts by anyone on any topic about Backdrop for tomorrow. Ooh, Jeff has a benchmarking blog post.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be like an outline of how you could standardize your testing.
Yeah, actually, I think this is. I can't remember. The real trick isn't running the test; it's building the test environment. And
yeah, he's got a Vagrant environment there, so that they all run in the same. And he's got bullet points of how he spun it up to make sure.
Maybe this one. Oh, maybe this one's going to be easier. Because the last, I was trying to follow somebody else's sandbox setup, and it was kind of all hacked together, and the instructions weren't actually accurate. It was funny because he was like, at the end of his article, he was saying, you know, feel free to like double check my work by using this GitHub project, and then I went and tried to duplicate what he'd done, and it was like completely impossible. But yeah, this looks. This might be. I think this is different, so it might be something else that might be easier to set up. Cool.
All right. So if anyone else has a blog post that will be ready to go tomorrow, that would be fantastic. We do have another blog post in the queue. We had a great meeting yesterday with the folks at Calamuna about Calabox. And so we've got a blog post in the works about Backdrop on Calabox, but we've got a couple of tasks to set up before that'll be ready. We want to make sure that Backdrop has its own Docker information. Right now we're just using the Drupal 7 stuff. We think it would be good to have like official Backdrop stuff too. Yeah, maybe upgrade our PHP version to PHP 7, something like that. But we are definitely open to getting new blogs on the radar, so just let us know if you have any of that. We did actually get a newsletter out on the 20th, which was fantastic. I'm not sure, I think it was not maybe last Friday or the Friday before. I'm not sure if you guys got it. I actually didn't get it. I had to go and subscribe to the newsletter, and I was just like, the newsletter went out and I didn't get it. It was really sad. But I'll get the next one. And so we've got a schedule where the next newsletter to go out is going to be right after Backdrop 1.4. I've got one newsletter going out every month. We missed February, but we got March. So hopefully we'll keep doing that. You can sign up for the newsletter on the footer of any page on backdropcms.org. I was thinking about maybe putting that also like on the news and announcements page or somewhere else more obvious, because people tend to ignore the footer once you've seen it. You don't read it again. So putting it somewhere where people will find it, because I had the same thought where I was like, how do I sign up? And I went to the news page and I was like, oh, I should put it here. So we'll try and make that a little easier for people to sign up. And I think getting kind of a constant stream of updates to everybody on the newsletter will also be good for letting everyone know what's going on. So let's see, yeah, okay, April 20th, I skipped an issue. April 20th, I want to send a newsletter about what's going on backdropcms.org, letting everybody know that they can sign in and create accounts, post events, that sort of thing. And then in May, we'll send one about Backdrop 1.4. So that's the plan for the newsletter. All right, so Backdrop CMS itself. We have, this is last week's 1.3.4 was out. Nate, do you want to give an update on 1.3.5?
Oh, yeah.
Not yet? There might be 1.3.5?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on.
Okay.
We've got a couple of bugs that we know about. Some, as always, like there's outstanding security issues, but we're coordinating with the Drupal team on those. I don't think that there's likely to be a security release for the next couple of weeks, but that might be what 1.3.5 is, or it might just be more bug fixes. So just as needed for 1.3.5. When that happens, it'll happen, but it's not on the immediate horizon. And there's not really any. We haven't really addressed any new small bugs since 1.3.4, which just came out earlier this month. So no real news there. We can go into 1.4.0 though, which is the next minor release, which is May 15th. That's now a month and a half away, almost exactly, which is a little bit scary because we have a lot of work to do. So we've got a long list of items that we'd like to see in 1.4. I would say the most important one is probably the one that needs the most help, and that's this references module. So references module, we want to have the functionality of entity reference, where you can reference any type of entity from any other type of entity and have that be a core module. But we'd like to simplify the architecture so that it's not quite so crazy as the entity reference module is in Drupal 7. But we just have a lot of challenges there. Like that, it basically means we need to do a rewrite or a new version of a module that has the simplicity of node and user reference modules, but the flexibility of entity reference module, and we need to think about an upgrade path. So we've got a lot of problems that we're facing with references, and there's an issue where there's a start on the module, but it's not really usable yet. So if you'd like to put some help towards 1.4, that would be great. Issue 1301 in the Backdrop issue queue is references module. The next item on the list, redirect module. Redirect module is issue 905, and this is actually coming along really pretty well. Jeff, do you want to give the update on redirect?
Sure. My updates are that Nate's doing all the work in Drush and redirect. But it's great, though. Nate de-entified redirect into just a class instead of extending entity class. It's just its own class now. And that's working great from what I've tested. Other testers are, of course, welcome. I didn't test like the views and the managing of it, but yeah, I should do that. But like on the node manage form, it's working great. And if you change, if you have a path auto set up based on, say, title, it makes a new redirect, which is awesome. Thanks, Nate. And then you had some UX suggestions. I would vote for making that a new issue. I guess there's two ways we could go with that. Like, one thing is I kind of had my eye on helping out on references module, but if we want to focus some more work on the redirect, I can keep my efforts there. or we can make a new issue to make that better with the UX and stuff. And I could turn some attention to references. I don't know what the right idea is there, but those are some ways to think about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right on there. That we can. I mean, redirect is so close now. I mean, it's getting to the point where we could, once we apparently fix the failing test, we could put in redirect almost at any time now, and then iterate on it after that. And I think that would be smart of us to at least have one of our major items in, and then we can work to polish it further in 1.5 or later. Yeah, and the things that I want to improve upon are things that have always been an issue in 777, and people have been managing with it okay. But we just have new abilities with like dialogues being part of core to make some UX improvements that would make redirect better than it ever has been before. Which, quite honestly, it's already better than it ever has been before because like getting rid of those stupid infinite looping redirects is probably like, yeah, that's got to be the biggest win that redirect has seen in the last 5 years. Okay, yeah, so that's looking great. Issue 905, we could use some additional testing on that, and it looks like we have to fix a test, but yeah, I think you're right that we should merge that in the near future and get the PR updated, and then make a new issue for additional follow-ups.
If I can backtrack for a second on the references module, is there a PR up there? Do you know?
You know what I did, and you could help in this, Jeff, is I filed a pull request against your branch. So you have to merge it into your branch, and then that will update the pull request. So it's still...
That's merged.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about references. I'm backing up on you.
References. There's not a pull request. I think that Mike has a repository that he's doing the work in. That's just under his private account right now. So I think that's where the work is.
I'll take a look there. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Front-end theme for 1.4. Says on here, Wes is going to do the update. Are you up for that, Wes?
I suppose. A lot of progress on that. This weekend I fixed a lot of things and then added a grid system and then broke a lot of things. So now I have to fix things again. So I'm really interested in having a grid system that works with Flexbox. And lo and behold, Bootstrap 4 is making a Flexbox grid system. So I took what they have and I'm modifying it for our use. And I want to make sure that like people know that we took and modified what they have, even though we're allowed to. I want to make sure that we give them some credit in the code there. So there's a little comment. But yeah, we're modifying it enough that we're probably not going to keep that, at least that CSS file, up to date if they make changes, which I highly doubt they will. So yeah, I have their Bootstrap grid system. I'm trying to implement it on templates right now and seeing how it feels. And then I'm thinking we'll also have the traditional float grid system for browsers that can't support Flexbox, and also if people don't want to use Flexbox for whatever reason, it's not right for their site. I don't think that'll happen, but I want to give people the option until it's more adopted than it is now. I think it has reached maturity though. So yeah, and then there's lots of updates and some demos from the design call. So if you look up the YouTube video for that, you can get a detailed update. But yeah, it's in. So I'm working. It's in Backdrop Contrib under the name Basis. It is super alpha still. I'm still breaking things and making stuff work. But definitely, if you want to mess with it, see what the grid system looks like, all that. It is far enough that you could do that. Yeah, taking any issues, any people that want to help work on it would be welcome. Just shoot me a message and I'll get you set up and give you a burn download. Ta-da!
managed to fit in just as the dogs exploded. Great. Um, yeah, we've got an issue for adding new core layouts as well as a new front-end theme that's separate, issue 698. And I think I'm in agreement. It's put in the agenda here that it's looking a little unlikely. We're still kind of figuring out the relationship between layouts and themes, and we kind of feel like we should figure that out completely before we rush anything and start making a lot of problems for ourselves in the future by having things that were kind of not completely understood. So we've got that one. It might be tabled for the next release. We've got a lot of things that are needing a lot of work before 1.5, and if we had to focus our efforts, we would focus them elsewhere, and probably leave that one for later. We've got an issue for improving the rich text editor, issue 1087, and this is a meta that has a whole bunch of sub-issues. The bugs that are in the rich text editor we can solve anytime, but one item we definitely need to do for sure before the next release is we have to upgrade CKEditor to the latest version. We're quite a bit behind at this point, but there's a lot of other items in that meta in ways that we can improve the rich text editor. If you're looking to improve the editorial experience, that would be a great issue to look at. And we've got a number of other issues that are just tagged for the 1.4.0 release that you can see by just using the tag or the release number on the GitHub issue tracker. Oh, here they are. I was wondering if they got dropped off the agenda, but they're still here. We also have two things that weren't on the roadmap, but we're trying to get them integrated in any case. The first one is Project Browser, and Project Browser has been seeing some really exciting work in recent days. I think Doc Wilmot made a bunch more, made a whole lot more progress on Project Browser. Actually, it looks like as of yesterday, he posted a huge amount of feedback that I haven't managed to read over yet. But the Project Browser is really exciting. If you'd like to give it a shot, you can do so using the new Sandboxes feature. And it's really quite fun. It's also really kind of terrifying that it's like you're using somebody else's computer and installing whatever module you want from backtopcms.org onto it, including Devel module. You can just, I'm just going to run some PHP code. Yeah, we're working on tightening down the security of those sandboxes as well. But it is really cool to see it in action. And so I will be taking a look at that later today. And anybody else that has an opportunity, it would be really great to take a look at that. Last I looked at it, it was looking really good. And so I think that's probably with redirect the thing that is most likely to be finished in the nearest timeline. So that's great. And also exciting about Project Browser, it's separated out. It's been separated from Update Module. It still depends on Update Module now, but it makes it now so if you don't want the ability to install a module on your site, right now if you have Update Module turned on, you have the ability to also install a module through Update Module, which is very weird that those things are tied together. And so that functionality to install a module has been moved into the installer module, which is now the browser, basically. So Project Browser has been renamed Installer, and the install functionality has been moved out of Update and into Installer module, and now it's all together. So not only can you disable the ability to install a module while maintaining the Update functionality, if you turn on the Installer module, it's actually like reasonable, like a way to find and install modules rather than copying and pasting a URL. Yeah, so yeah, it's very cool. Issue 1399 if you'd like to give that a shot and help do some review on it. We also have an issue for improving the field UI. There's a lot of really excellent ideas in this issue 779 in the Backdrop Core Queue. And that again is like we've got a lot of great ideas there, but implementation hasn't moved forward very far. There's some really simple ideas. We're not talking about a rewrite of field UI. We're just talking about iterating on some basic improvements. And so I'd love to see some progress moving forward there, but we've all got priorities. So that's a good one to keep an eye on nonetheless. Okay, there's also a whole bunch of UX and DX issues tagged as such with square brackets before their name on GitHub that we'd always like to keep an eye on those and continuously improve the user experience throughout Backdrop. I know that there's several issues that are almost ready in relating to layouts that are UX improvements that we'll probably see merged in the next week or two. So that's really exciting to see those things moving forward. Why don't we go to questions? If anybody has any questions about all of the stuff that we've been just kind of steamrolling through, if you guys have anything that you guys would like to talk about, we can do so.
I had one thing that I forgot to mention. With the new theme, we are going to have to update the markup of the existing theme somehow. But we're also going to have to respect that sites are currently using the existing layouts. We don't want to break that, so we may do something weird. But anyway, there is going to be some update to layouts if the new theme gets in, but maybe not the addition of a bunch of layouts.
Yeah, I thought, is it more than adding additional wrappers? I know that's what you'd mentioned previously.
It is just that.
Okay, so that's really unlikely to break an existing site, but I guess really unlikely isn't impossible,
I would say that what I might do is just steal the layouts that Wes had been working on and throw them on one of my sites that has super crazy theme stuff on it and just see the reality of craziest use case I can think of if anything's broken. That could be kind of fun.
Okay, cool. So something from Doc Beaumont. One thing we really need help for is to figure out why Project Browser pull request passes locally but fails on Travis, basically. Okay. Yeah, there are some funny things with Travis because Travis runs through a fast CGI backend rather than using the built-in Apache PHP, like mod PHP. So there's a difference there that sometimes can cause some unusual behavior between a local host, which is usually running Apache, and the remote one, which is also running Apache but is running PHP through fast CGI. So that would be my guess as to a difference. And it would be good if it's happening on Travis. That means it also would be happening to other sites that we're running, like Nginx, for example, which is what we're doing on backdropcms.org. So I can take a look. There's a lot of feedback there that needs reviewing, and that is on my agenda for today.
Did anybody have a blog post for tomorrow?
I wrote this thing. It's an intense amount of documentation, mostly for internal Falate purposes, on how to deal with using Brush for Drupal 6.8 Backdrop, and it's already out of date but I can update it. It's kind of dry, but I'd be happy to convert it into kind of how-to post.
That would be fantastic.
Cool. I think I can do that for tomorrow. So.
Okay.
Maybe let me know how that's done. I don't know.
Yeah, we should probably figure out the actual process. I would love to just be able to give somebody a blogger role and then let them do whatever. Okay, I'll figure it out.
Cool.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, every Thursday we call them backdrop days. I'm not sure if it's the same for everybody, but we block off Thursdays to do sprinting, and we mostly coordinate through the Backdrop issue queue, github.com/backdrop. We're also regularly or increasingly using Gitter for live communications. So there's a link to Gitter from the backdropcms.org issue queue. It's in the README now. It's also in the agenda, gitter.im/backdrop/backdrop-issues. I know it's a little bit of a long URL for a chat channel, but Gitter is actually really pretty great. It's got great native apps. It's got a great in-browser experience. It's basically identical to Slack, but it's integrated with GitHub, and it's free, unlike Slack. So, well, yeah, Slack is complicated as far as its business model goes, but Gitter's actually been proving to be a really pretty great tool, and we now have an IRC bot in there that is very friendly, Dragon bot, so you can work on building your karma in the Gitter channel. We also still have the IRC channel, #backdrop on Freenode. We've been considering Gitter runs an IRC network as well. We've been considering deprecating the channel on Freenode and telling people to join the Gitter server instead, and then all of the chat, whether you're in IRC or on Gitter, would all be in the same place. But obviously, a Gitter chat server is not the same as Freenode, and really almost everybody is familiar with Freenode, and not very many people are actually familiar with setting up separate chat servers, like joining and authenticating into a separate chat server. So there's some barriers there. But we are also in IRC, #backdrop on Freenode. If IRC is your preferred mechanism, there's still a good number of people that are hanging out there as well. Reddit channel, kind of not really sure if there's a lot of activity happening over on Reddit these days, but we do have a channel, reddit.com/r/backdrop, for talking about kind of water cooler discussion about Backdrop and things that are happening around it. We have an iCal feed of upcoming Backdrop events, including, I think, these meetings, so you can see when the meetings occur and events at which Backdrop is either people are presenting on Backdrop, or the organizers have just stated that they would like Backdrop people present to kind of increase the diversity of their talks and topics and attendees. Drupal Camp Guadalajara is coming up next weekend. Jen and I are going to be there. For anyone in Mexico, we would love to see you. And we love Mexico, so we're really excited to be going down there and speaking on Backdrop, of course. And now on the website, backdropcms.org/events, a real lightweight, this really lightweight list of events that are coming up at which you can find Backdrop people.
But lightweight because people can add their own events too. So.
Oh, very nice. Anybody with an account?
Yes, anybody with a backdropcms.org account. Actually, you don't have to have the camp yourself to post them.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say with an account. Yeah, not with a camp. Yeah. Either way, yeah. Okay, that's great. Yay. Okay, last item of news. We have a book out, Migrating from Drupal to Backdrop, from Apress by Todd Tomlinson. You can order it from Apress or from Amazon. And I've been hearing a lot of news. Oh, yeah, there's a copy of it right there. Great book, technically accurate, really pretty short. It's only 80 pages or so. But a great introduction to getting your site moved from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. He's also doing a lot of work publishing Beginning Backdrop, which will hit the shelves second quarter. Second quarter starts tomorrow, actually, so sometime in the next 3 months, we'll probably be seeing the first full book on Backdrop. And I've been seeing some activity in the Gitter channel from Goldmantix, I think, saying that he's been doing some reviewing on that book as well. So it's definitely happening. It's coming along, and I can't wait. It's going to be great. We already had kind of our Q&A session, so I think we're pretty well done for the day. If there's anything else you guys have? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining the Backdrop meeting. Every Thursday, we'll see you guys next week, we hope. So thanks.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
especially Clonos, for joining in the wee hours of the night. So.
Yay. All right. Bye, guys.